Why is it we pay attention to culture? Why is it we're even asking you to have this conversation? It's because we take a systems approach to this kind of behavior. This kind of behavior doesn't happen in a vacuum. This kind of behavior happens within a context. It happens within a personal context, psychological context, a work context. It happens within a context. And if as leaders we're going to change this behavior, we need to get a really good understanding of what the context is. We need to get a good understanding of the culture so that we can change aspects of the culture, or the system if you prefer, in order to change the behavior. Again, I've had experience where the focus has been entirely on changing the behavior, and it doesn't last very long. As any of you who have undertaken an exercise program would know, right? Is that if we don't change aspects of our environment or our culture or the stuff that surrounds the exercise, we don't exercise. Or we do, we start on January 1st and by January 31st it's all over. How many of you have a piece of exercise equipment you hang clothes on? Right? Yes, yes. It's something about some study was done on the most common use of a treadmill. It was to hang clothes on, right? Now I know this is a group that's very, very fit and very committed to their health, so I'm probably a bad example. But anyway, if you have a superficial approach to behavior change, you get a very, very short-term change in behavior. If you want a long-term, more permanent change in behavior, you have to take a systems approach to this. You have to look at all the aspects of the system that are contributing to this kind of behavior. I think we as human beings, regardless of whether we're doctors, administrators, nurses, it really doesn't matter what we are, I think we have three needs. And I think it's to belong, to matter, and to trust. And if we want positive, productive behavior in the workplace, we as leaders have to think about how are we creating a workplace where people feel like they belong, where people feel like they matter, and where people feel like they trust the other people and they're trusted by others. And those are the questions we as leaders have to ask ourselves every day, is what am I doing to make that happen? Because if we can create workplaces where people feel like they belong, they matter, and they trust, then we start to see positive behavior like you can't even imagine. Part of the problem is we're creating these workplaces where these things aren't happening. So it really, I think we can boil it down to very, very basic elements. And when I hear about all the things that you said either contributed to disruptive behavior or positive productive behavior, in my mind I kept thinking belonging, mattering, and trusting. Every time I heard one of your suggestions about input into policies, input into decision making, understanding how administration works, those are all things about mattering. It's about how do I matter around here, or do I matter at all? And oftentimes when we see some of this disruptive behavior going, leave aside kind of the pathological origins of that behavior, it's because those basic needs are not being fulfilled for me. So as leaders, we have to ask ourselves the questions, how are we going to make those things, how are those things going to be felt in our organization?